Anyway, one rider who knows exactly what it takes to win Paris-Roubaix is the winner of the first ever women's race, Lizzie Deignan. I'm delighted to say she joins us now. Welcome to the show, Lizzie. We will get to Tadej in just a moment to get your opinion on that. But I want to talk about you first. Your last season as a professional. How's it all going? How does it feel for you to be riding each of these races as your last?
It feels really good. Yeah, I'm really, really happy with my decision. I think it's clear to see for everyone that it's getting harder and harder to win bike races. So I have chosen to retire at exactly the right time.
I love that as well, because the way you have gone and had children and then come back to the bike twice is an inspiration to a lot of riders who are able to now have that path for them. Are you able to look back yet? It's probably a silly question. Look back yet on what your legacy will be in this sport, or do you just want to get through the season and let other people deal with that?
No, I suppose when you're in it, you're not really thinking about legacy. And probably when I'm finished, it's not something that I really consider myself to be, a trailblazer. I've always just been brought up in a way that I've voiced my opinions on inequality, whether it was at school or my first years on the track or whatever. I always felt empowered to challenge authority and to challenge inequality, and that's down to my upbringing, and that won't stop after cycling. So I'm excited to see what challenges are next, and very proud of my career as well.
I'm so glad to hear it's not done yet. Sorry, Adam.
Lizzie, what are you going to do next? Have you got a plan?
No, relax big time is what I'm going to do. I'm gonna stop the juggle. I mean, the last couple of years have been really, really hard trying to balance everything, and I just want to be at home a lot more with my children. Basically.
I was going to say that's a bigger challenge anyway. Good luck.
You'll be back on your bike in no time, Lizzie. But I do want to ask you, as obviously a winner of Paris-Roubaix, you know what it takes to win this race. You know the risks involved. You did remarkably well on a number of occasions in your edition to stay upright. It was looking a bit sketchy. What do you think of Tadej's decision to ride this race ahead of trying to defend that Tour de France title?
I think he'd be mad not to, yeah. I mean, I think, I'm at the back end of my career now. My best years are behind me. And there's, even in my case, some races that I think, why didn't I give those a crack? Because you're always focused on the next thing and what you're trying to win. But I think what Adam was saying, when you're in the peak of your career, maybe you're not even aware of it, but you should absolutely make the most of that physical ability that he has, that dominance that he has now. He'd be mad not to give it a go, I think.
Lizzie, do you notice anything with Tadej and the way he races that is now reflected into the women's peloton at all?
Do you know what? It's nice to see that they also have somebody who's so dominant. I remember for a couple of years, Annemiek was making the rest of us look a bit silly. And, it kind of made people question how professional we were or whatever. And I think it's nice to see that that's reflected in the men's scene now, that there are just these kind of freaks of nature that come around once in a generation, and he's one of them.
I love how you flip that around, Lizzie. That's exactly why I love you. I love your voice in this sport. Stay with us, please, because we'd love to get your thoughts on Milan-San Remo Donna, of course, a race that was eventually won by Lorena Wiebes in a sprint, and a result that on the face of it wasn't exactly a shock, though it did seem to surprise at least one of the favourites.
It was fast, it was hard, but not hard enough. It was just overall really fast, really stressful. But then on the climbs, it was not fast enough for all the climbers.
What's the big lesson you take from today's race?
That is really, really fast, that you can almost not prepare for that. It's just like this and it's over. It's really crazy.
Not fast enough for all the climbers, Lizzie. What do you make of that?
Oh, well, it was fast enough for me. Yeah, I mean, I was actually surprised that FCJ didn't take it on. I was surprised that the group was as big as it was. I mean, their chance to me was to go even harder on Coppa Berta before Cipressa, because as soon as you get onto the Cipressa, traffic actually plays an important role in it. And I think unless you've got a dominant team who are all full gas into it, she's right, it's not hard enough for Demi. So.
What did you make of the first Milan-San Remo in the Women's World Tour, and how important or otherwise it is to have that race?
It was good to see it back, that's for sure. It's crazy to think that, it did exist, and in 2005 it went away. So really pleased that it's back on the calendar and we have another monument to fight for. And it was a really cool race. It was really different to be in it compared to watching it as a spectator. You kind of think it's a bit more of a procession and that everyone just waits until the Cipressa. But actually there's so much road furniture along the coast. There's so many twists and turns that it is fast. And if you're badly positioned, you're sprinting out of every roundabout, out of every corner. And I didn't appreciate that until I was actually in the peloton.
Lizzie, you're a rider that's very tactically aware. And looking at Demi and listening to her, what she said in that interview, saying it wasn't fast enough or hard enough for the sprinters. Do you think the climbers, obviously the sprinters were chuffed to bits, the climbers, do you think if you were in that situation with Demi's legs, she should have gone on the attack on the Poggio at least, even after it was, I'm going to say easy. It wasn't easy for her at all, but do you think she missed a trick?
Yeah, it's an interesting tactic. I mean, they went with a full climber squad. So Ali Wollaston, their sprinter, who would have been capable to finish in a group with Wiebes, I think, on one of her best days. They didn't put her in the team. They went with a full climbers team. So I was surprised that they didn't fully commit. And yeah, Demi should have, in my opinion, just gone, on the Cipressa even. I mean, she had nothing to lose.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because even looking at the results and where the race positioned itself, it was very much to me like it has been last few years in a men's race. And it was almost, for me, it was almost predictable how it was going to come down to the Poggio. But it was very predictable that Demi in there with Lotte and Wiebes, I thought it would go a lot earlier than what it did do, like you just mentioned. What was your team tactics on the bus beforehand? What was your plan? What was being said there?
We were all in for Barty. She just won Binder, which was a similar course. There was climbs and then a descent towards finish. So we were absolutely all in. My job was to deliver them to the Cipressa and then basically keep using people to keep getting Barty into position and not even worry about a lead out, because you can't lead out a sprinter anymore in that situation. So it was about keeping the speed as high and controlled as possible till the finish line, where she would hopefully sprint. And she tried, she stood up and sat straight back down. She just didn't have the legs anymore.
Yes, it feels really exciting to be watching women's racing right now and all of the potential, I think. And it really showcases the strength and depth of the sport that we've been allowed to watch over the last couple of years. Is that how it feels in the middle of it? Does it feel exciting?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it feels really good. I think you are finally seeing kind of the developments over the last 5 years in terms of minimum wage and things like that. The strength and depth of the peloton is there now. So the racing becomes a lot more dynamic and interesting. 10 years ago when somebody put in a huge attack, that was it. That was the race done. Whereas now those attacks have to be relentless in order for the real front runners to go. But I think tactically, it's just so much more interesting when there's more players involved.
I mean, I say exciting, it's probably just brutally hard now. There's a different perspective from the sofa, isn't there? Lizzie, thank you so much for joining us today. I think Dwars of Vlaanderen is your next race, so good luck with that and enjoy the rest of your final season. We'll enjoy watching it, bittersweet as it'll be for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.